rising and priming powerful beings. Grand rising and priming powerful beings. Shout out to you. It's the holistic motivator. And if you're constantly trying to please people, this episode is for you. If you're constantly trying to please people, this episode is for you. We're going to do some healing today. Pleasing is a love style that I love to call pseudo-love style. It's a way that we keep love around us that's not really love, but it's conditional. So we do everything we can to please people, not actually pleasing God. If you want to please somebody or an entity, please God, not people. Because you can never be pleasing enough to please everybody. And a pleasing personality is actually what they call a love style according to psychologists. I call it a pseudo-love style. It's a way that you get love that's not love. So keep joining me on this journey to becoming the best version of ourselves as I go on with this episode of Ed Talks Daily, as I talk about why it's important to stop trying to please everybody. Listen, if you're trying to please everybody, then it means that it's been rooted in your childhood, right? There are actually many love styles. There's the people who avoid people. There's the people who please people. There's the people who actually let people abuse them because it's part of their lifestyle. So let's go back. First of all, this is a podcast. This is all about growing in all aspects of your life. How do you solidify a healthy mindset that will lead to healthy body, healthy relationships, and in tune spirit? If you want to keep growing with me as I become better, I've been doing this for the last 5 years. You want to subscribe to this podcast by going to edtalksdaily.com or going to your favorite podcast app and putting in Ed Talks Daily. Now that you've actually listened to me and you tapped in to know what this is all about, now I'm going to give you a powerful message. Pleasing means I'm only worthy when I do exactly what you want me to do, not really thinking about what's best for me. Pleasing means I actually tailor my life to meet other people's standards and expectations, foregoing my own voice. Pleasing often means you actually shut yourself up so you don't get into any trouble, right? Have you ever been in an environment where it's your parents' way or the highway, where you actually never have a viewpoint? You actually, the only point of view you have is the point of view of the person that runs the household. And sometimes it could be your dad, it could be your mom, right? And in my case, it was definitely my stepmother, right? I lived in an environment that was not conducive to me actually growing as a man who thinks, expresses himself freely. I had to express myself in the box without offending anybody emotionally. And I realized that has affected the way that I communicate, or actually just trying to communicate in a way that, oh, okay, that makes you feel good, or that makes them feel good. And at some point in my life, especially starting in 2020, I started to heal, where I realized that I don't have to actually tailor the way that I'm being to match everybody else's expectation of me, right? Don't try to tailor yourself to match everybody else's expectations, because you can never, if you try to tailor yourself to match everybody's expectations, you're never gonna fit the suit that everybody has wearing for you. Now you're gonna find yourself wearing everybody else's suit instead of actually wearing the full armor of God. Let me say that again. If you're trying to tailor yourself to match everybody else's expectations, you're always going to tailor yourself to match everybody else's suits instead of wearing the full armor of God. The full armor of God does not require you to meet other people's expectation. It requires you to match your standard to God's standard. God's standard, not other people's standard. Now we're gonna go through this. We're gonna go through this and we're gonna touch a base on it. This podcast it's progressive. I don't just, boom, I'm dropping it all on you. No, we have to grow to understanding. Understanding must be slowly but surely. That's how the understanding is going to go about. So, what do I mean by that? Let's get into it. Here's what happens with most people. Most people have learned to survive in order to get love, not thrive in love. Let me say that again. Most people have learned to survive in order to get love, not thrive in love. What I mean by that is, in order for me to survive in an emotional home where some people may be unstable, I have to tame myself or tailor myself to the way that they expect me to be. So I never show up as I am. I show up as they want me to be. Or I show up in opposition of what they want me to be, still not showing as who I am. Here's what I mean by that. right? Sometimes we don't just do things to please people. We do things to spite people, and we don't even want to do those things. Let's go back again. Y'all want me to say that again? Sometimes we don't just do things to please people. We do things to spite people, and that still is another way of affecting you emotionally. So somebody says, what is it then? Here's what I want to ask you. To every level of growth is a level of expression. Let's say that 3 times. And every level of growth is a level of expression. It's not a matter of how good or bad or right or wrong. It's a matter of how far you've grown so far. However, for one to be healthy and have healthy relationship, one must be able to express himself. But what's wise is that you must learn how to express yourself effectively in a way that does not make everybody else a bad person, or in a way that's not toxic. That's called growth. Not everybody chooses to grow. Some people choose to stay toxic. What I'm saying is, if you're one that chooses to grow, don't let toxic energy close out your voice. All my childhood, I used to be so quiet. And I found out, being a male now, the reason why I was quiet as a kid was not because I had nothing to say, but I was trying to tailor around everybody's emotion, because if I said the wrong thing, it might offend somebody. My mom told me, and when I talk about my mom, I have two mothers. The mother who gave birth to me and loved me unconditionally, and the mother who raised me and loved me with conditions. Now, both mothers took care of me and did what they needed to do for me. But one mother loved me emotionally, unconditionally. Another mother only loved me conditionally. My stepmother loved me conditionally. My mom loved me unconditionally. I'm going deep. God said, look, there's great stuff that needs to be done in the world, and I'm going to have to use your story for it. You're like, you're not going to like it, son, but it's going to help people, so it's not about you. So shut up and just do what I say. So now I'm just going to be like, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to express my story. So are you down with me just expressing my story? If you're down, just put, if you're up for it, comment, I'm up for it. All right, comment, I'm up for it. If you're up for me just sharing my story, comment, I'm up for it. So I had 2 mothers, one mother that was conditional, another that was unconditional. The first 9 years, I was in an unconditional home, and my mom said I was the kid who I said whatever came out. I was very expressive. This is a guy who couldn't talk up until I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was muted till I was 4 or 5. But when I started talking, baby. At some point, I stopped talking. I didn't know what happened. When I came here, I stopped talking for some reason. It's not because the language changed. Oh my God. God is doing some work. But the love language changed. It's not because I was a Creole speaker. I didn't speak English. It's not just because I had to change my language from Creole to English, because at home I still spoke Creole. It's because the love language changed. And guess what happens when you leave an unconditional love home and you go to a conditional love home? That's called abandonment of love. And my love style came from a close relationship to my mother. I was literally bonded by the hip. Everywhere she go, I want to be with her, to a distant relationship with my stepmother. Y'all up for that conversation? Yeah, do y'all really want to have this talk? Because this is a season of healing, and I'm up for it, baby. I'm gonna say a couple of things. Look, don't be a pleaser, be a healer. Let's say this 3 times as we start this episode, because God put a word in me today, and I'm here to spread that message. Is that okay? Don't be a pleaser, be a healer. I am not your pleaser, I am a healer. And I'm not here to please you, I'm here to heal. And if our relationship is not on a healing note, then you can go your way, I'll go my way. But let's get to that conversation and talk about why I decided to no longer be a pleaser and decided to become a healer. I realized that some people will use certain tools of blame and shame and guilt towards you if you keep accepting it in your life. And by that I mean, I lived in a home where if I didn't do what she wanted me to do, I was emotionally abandoned and not talked to. If I don't do everything, if I use my own thinking to make my own decisions in a way that was not approved, then guess what happens? I am emotionally abandoned. And what I discovered that created distance, that created heartbreak. And recently I said, I will not accept that in my life anymore. It's either you love me unconditionally or we don't need to do this. right? I don't need to have 3 months of great and then 2 months of ignorance. Like, I'm like, yo, we're not doing that anymore. So at some point in your life, guess what you have to do to free yourself? You have to make a decision that, yo, I'm freeing myself by saying, yo, I know that this was the emotional home I was once in, but I decide that I'm not going to be in this emotional home anymore. And when you decide that you're not going to be in an emotional home, when you start to heal, when you start to realize what's happening, when you start to face your story head on, when you admit that I have been a pleaser, and guess what? A pleaser with one in relationship becomes a pleaser with other relationships. And there's something on your forehead that's not on your forehead that says she's a pleaser. He's a pleaser. And when people see you a pleaser, they're going to use that against you. You might not even know it, but they will talk to you in a certain way where they will realize if you don't behave like I want, if you don't talk like I want you to talk, if you express yourself in a way that I don't want you to express yourself, they're going to either shut you down. And I've been in relationships like that of people who probably meant well, but I was tired of it. I'm tired of relationships like that, right? As soon as I say something that gets on your nerves, oh, that offends. Oh, no, I can't express myself. Oh, because, I don't like that. Oh, no, don't do it like that. Do it like this. Look, don't let people tell you what to do, because okay, there's something that we used to say as kids: you're not the boss of me. Look, you're not the boss. Let me tell you something. Even parents who lead you early on, they're not your boss. Now, I don't know, some mom or some dad gonna be like, say, what you telling my kid? No, your parent is not your boss. Your parent is a leader in your life, but you are the boss of your life. You must always remember this. And even if you're a parent, please pass this on to your kid. Please don't be their boss, because what you're teaching them to be emotionally dependent upon a figure. And when it's no longer you, it might be their spouse. And when it's no longer you, it might be their husband or their boyfriend. You're literally teaching your kid how to be codependent. And a codependency relationship is a relationship led towards disaster. Let me say that again. A codependency relationship is a relationship led towards it does not serve any of the people. Because to be codependent upon does not just affect the person dependent upon you, it affects you you have someone depending on you. So even if you think like, yo, you know what? I'm going to be addicted to this person's relationship. In order to keep their relationship, I'm going to get on the high of their approval. In order for me to be happy, I'm depending on this person's relationship, and I get high off of their approval. I get high off, so I do things to tailor around. Let me give you a primarily example. I'm a grown man. And I'm telling you, sometimes God will take you in places you don't want to be, and you will feel embarrassed. I say this is one of my quotes. Embarrassment now is empowerment later. Let's say that 3 times. I'm telling you, everything I went through, I did not just go through it, I grew through it, and now it's an empowerment for other people. Your embarrassment now is empowerment later. I had to move back home. Somebody says, where are you at? I am literally at home right now. And I promise you, in the next 365 days, whatever happened that made me lose my credit, whatever happens that made apartments not want to give me a place, all of that is going to be changed. I'm going to get my own place. Because guess what? I'm not just moving out of here to get my own space. I'm moving out of here to move from one emotional home to another. Because guess what? I'm tired. I'm tired of being in an environment where I can't really be myself. I have to tiptoe around other people's emotions. Who needs to hear this? Because guess what? We're going to keep it real. I am not the person who comes here to keep it fake. I'm going to keep it real. Can I keep it real? Can I tell you the process in the process of, or do you want me to wait after the process to tell you the process? Can I tell you the process in the process of? So let me tell you this. Sometimes we get in the high of somebody's approval because we feel as if the only way that we can thrive is to be codependent upon somebody else. So guess what? I would find myself, as soon as my stepmother coming back to the home, like, yo, I got to make sure everything is perfect around. I'm like, bro, it may not be perfect right now because I might be busy doing something else. Right? I might be busy working, and guess what? I didn't get to wash the dishes. I might be busy working. I didn't see the duck. I might be busy working. And there was a time of my life, and I'm sharing this story with you not because I wanted to share it with y'all. I've been hiding this away I was like, yo, I'm going to share anything else, but I'm not going to share this. And guess what? I realized that in this season, especially during this winter times, people are suffering. And God said, this is not about you, bruh. So get out of your head, get into your heart, and help the people. So, I said, okay, Lord. Okay, Lord. I'm going to get out of my head and get into my heart and help the people. So I would wait. I would be like, yo, it'd be 4 PM. And I'm like, yo, I got to get everything situated. And guess what? Every single time that my mother would come home, my stepmother, it'd be like, yo, she would go and look for 5 or 6 different things that possibly would go wrong in the day. I'm like, bro, you don't even acknowledge how my day went, but you gonna look for 5 or 6 different things that possibly can go wrong every single day. That's the first thing you do before you put your bag down. I'm like, that is an emotionally abusive relationship. And that emotionally abusive relationship affected me psychologically, and it affected me in a way that I realized that I'm freeing myself. Now I'm talking about it. And guess what? It'd be like, yo, it's the same. Now somebody says, well, these are common sense. Well, let me ask you a question. Let's say you just ate some food and you had the hiatus, you watch a movie, you fell asleep. Do you think you might have washed the dishes right away every single day? Let's say you didn't get to sweep the floor. Do you think that might happen at the same time every single day? Let's say something is out of where this was a spot, but it's not it. Do you think that somebody, especially guys, can be perfect in the way that when they get everything together to please you every single time, every single day, not really. That was my life. And at some point I had this always anxiety. If somebody comes to your home, your emotional home, and they cause anxiety to you every day, if you wake up around somebody and you feel your boy toil up, this means there's resentment, there's anger, this relationship is not healthy. So I realized that was the relationship I was in for the last few years, moving back home, failing school, sleeping in my car, losing my apartments, going through an eviction, all of that affected me in a way where I didn't even think, I'm not even gonna get approved for a house. So I'm like, let me put my head down, save on rent, work on my business, work on my brand, reveal the gift that God gave me. When he's ready to elevate me, I'll move out of here. But in the meantime, maybe there's something I need to heal from home. I'm talking about a relationship where I first moved home, y'all. I didn't have a key to the house. And I remember one day I slept on the steps, not because there wasn't anybody home, but there was nobody willing to open the door because I was a grown man coming from college, sleeping. Like, bro, I'm a grown man. I used to have my own stuff. Yeah, I had my own house. I lost it. Yeah. But I'm moving back home and I don't have a key to my house. I'm sleeping on the steps. My dad is inside. He's not opening the door because he's asleep, not because my stepmother has a thing about becoming home. I was in a relationship where I felt like my own father did not stand up for me because he was even like, I'm going to be a pleaser too. Now, I'm putting family skeletons out because I want to help people. And unfortunately, some people probably going to get mad, but this is how it's going to be for the rest of my life. So unfortunately, I have to sacrifice how other people is going to feel about this versus how I'm going to help other people with this story. So unfortunately, but fortunately, I'm going to have to start sharing stuff that I don't even want to share. I want y'all to hear what I'm saying here. Unfortunately, but fortunately, I'm going to stop sharing stuff that I don't even want to share, but I need to. Because that's the calling that God put on me in this season, because he's like, this isn't about you. You need to help people. So I'm like, okay. So let me keep going. I lived in an emotional home where I didn't have people stand up for me. It was always like, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I had a conversation with my dad one time. He was like, yeah, sometimes you got to put your head down and do what you do to make people happy. I was like, what? You mean to tell me this is not making me happy? I got to keep them happy? How about my happiness? I literally had that conversation. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yo, this wasn't right. Right? So that affected other relationships where I was in even business relationships with people. And that business relationship was not serving me. I was not getting paid what I was worth for. But instead of speaking my truth, I just shut down and didn't say anything pleasing people. If you don't heal your childhood traumas is going to affect your business. If you don't heal your childhood trauma is going to affect your relationships. Your childhood trauma is going to affect. So I realized that now in this season, God is like, yo, not only is this going to help you help others, but now when you get a wife, you're going to choose a wife right correctly. I know not to have a woman who can't have a conversation. Look, if we need to go to sleep mad at each other for more than 3 nights in a week or 2 weeks, I can't date you. If we can't be a grown man or woman to say, hey, we had a disagreement and maybe we can be mad at each other for 24 hours. Maybe 48 hours can pass. But Lord, we will not have a week. If we cannot be that a grown man, a grown woman, to be grown enough to have that conversation, we can't be in a relationship because I already know where my child. We can't do that. So now I already even know what to look for in a woman. I am being. Look, your pain is actually a blessing. Your pain is a blessing, so now you don't have to grow through that pain forever in your life. But guess what? At some point, you got to make a decision. The other day, I received a text message or calling, and I realized that if you don't express yourself in increments, you express it by blowing up. And they call that acting up. And sometimes you can say stuff that's hurtful. And what I realized was I suppressed my anger. Suppression of anger means that you blow up when you can't hold it in anymore. So you put on a smile to keep the person pleased, but at some point, you're going to blow up. And when it happens, they won't recognize it. And you're like, yo, who is this lion that came out? And you might scare the wit out. Like, yo, I don't know this person. Guess what? I don't want to be in a point where people don't know me. So I'm not going to introduce myself in a blow up. I'm going to introduce myself by expressing how I feel. And if when I express how I feel, you can't look, I realize I'm trying to express how I feel, not because I want to make you wrong, but because I just really want to let you know how I'm feeling about this. And I just want you to hear me. I don't necessarily want you to agree with me, but I like your point of view in return, because this is how we have conversation as grown people. It's crazy how as a child you could be more grown than the adult. Grown is not how much you've aged, but it's how far you've grown spiritually, emotionally, relationally. Grown does not mean I'm 40, so I'm grown. We have 40-year-old kids. We have 50-year-old kids. I'm like, yo, this is a kid behavior. I'm a grown man now. I'm growing emotionally. I'm growing spiritually. I can't do this. I can't do that. So the other day, my stepmom hit me up. And I blew up. I blew up because it was about some dirt, y'all. Lord, Lord, Lord. I don't even know. I don't even know why you having me doing this, because I don't want to do this. This is very uncomfortable. This is my story, but I'm going to do it. I blew up about some dirt. So there was bags of dirt. First of all, these dirts was a significance of something else. It was not even just the dirt, right? I just took a bag of dirt that's been sitting there for months, like 6 or 12 months, to just pot some garbage. I could have went to Home Depot and bought dirt, but I'm like, yo, this dirt is just here. She don't need them. I'm going to use them, whatever. She has a garden. I have a garden. We love gardening. That's actually where we link up and meet together. So for me, taking the dirt was like, it ain't a real big deal. Like, we can share, right? I'll probably replace it later. When it doesn't matter. I cultivate dirt here. I give her dirt. I make compost, right? Y'all want to hear about the dirt? How dirt can create a disagreement that will make you blow up? I'm like, you worried about dirt? You getting mad at me about that I use some dirt that you have not been using? That it pissed me off the other day. When first conversation, and when somebody talks to you in resentment, you can feel it. I'm like, bruh, you only talk to me when something is wrong. You only talk to me in resentment, and you talk to me with a certain tone that I don't want to hear. Right? I became a grown man when I started speaking up for myself. I stopped being a boy when I just let people walk over me all emotionally. And when I found other girls doing that in my life, I said, nah, that's not going to happen. I am not your simp. I am a grown man. I am a wise man. I am such a king, and you're going to treat me like it. And if you don't, You don't need to be in my life because I can teach you more than you can teach me to begin with. Now, somebody says you being a little bit cocky. Hell to the yeah, I'm being cocky because I know who I am, right? So don't come at me in a certain way. When you start to heal, you speak in your power. Now you can lead. You can be a better leader. So somebody come talk to me about dirt. I blew up. I was like, I'm tired of you talking to me. Like, I'm tired of you speaking to me of resentment and anger all the time. Literally, I was expressing myself aggressively because I am a man. Like, I'm a man. I'm not a boy. Like, I speak, and sometimes we can't tame ourselves to be little cats. Like, you want a lion that's gonna stand up for you and walk for you, but then you want to tame him like a cat. I'm like, yo, Ma, I love you, but you're not doing that. But here's the thing. I can do that with my stepmom. Her response is, I'm done with you. I'm not talking to you. I'm ignoring you. She was like, yo, I'm not talking. I'm not even saying hello. I do that with my, I don't do that in that way with my mom, but sometimes I'm assertive with my mom a little bit. But my mom, like, when I'm assertive with her in a way, it's not rude. Like, sometimes I need to be assertive. My mom is a single mother, right? Now she has somebody, right? But like, sometimes I'm assertive with my mom because she needs that assertiveness, and she actually grow from it. And we get back and we have that conversation. And sometimes I'm like, I'm sorry, I was kind of like too assertive. But I see how that helps her, right? But my stepmom, when I'm assertive with her, it's like, I hate you now, I'm not talking to you, right? There's a difference between unconditional and conditional love. So I realized that assertiveness with my mother is one thing. Assertiveness with my stepmother is another thing. Okay? About the herb, this is a podcast, so we're not talking about herbs. I pick a subject for my podcast, I go on it. So we'll talk about that later. So I'm like, yo, I'm assertive. Assertiveness means I'm just making my voice known. This is what's happening. And sometimes that needs to happen. But if that's responded with, oh, you were assertive, you spoke your truth, so now I don't feel good about it. Now, okay, I don't need to talk to you anymore. What? I'm just literally letting you know how I felt when you're getting mad at me about a dirt bag that's $5 that's been sitting for 6 months. I'm just letting you know how I feel about, like, you know how that I'm just making, okay, here's another thing. I'm just letting you know how I feel like when I actually love you and care for you, and every time I walk around you, it's like I just drink some poison because that's the resentment, that's the energy you're giving off. I just want to let you know that. But you can't hear me because you're hearing my tone. I just want to let you know that you give me the same tone, but when I give that back to you, you can't take that energy, huh? But I can take it all my life. Y'all hear that? I can take it all, so I realized, I was like, you know what? I'm not rude. I was like, you know, I'm not rude. I'm not a bad person here. I'm a little boy who finally is becoming a man. Right? I'm a broken kid who's finally healing. And you know what? Sometimes I'll be like, yo, I didn't need to do it with that much anger. And then I was like, yo, it was stuck in me. I needed to release it somehow. I was like, the next time, don't do it with that much anger. But even when I try to do it with compassion, you know, it's never received or acknowledged. And what I realized was I never ever got an apology from my stepmom. Never. I always was doing to be, I was the bigger adult. Like, I had to say, okay, yeah, this happened. We gotta get. I'm like, bro, this is not emotionally good for you because you're not the cause of everything, right? And here's the thing, like, I remember when moving back home, like, I was depressed. Like, I just lost my house, I just lost my car, I got kicked out of my own organization, all my brotherhood, like, everything broken down into pieces. I just lost my business because my business was in my car, mobile personal training. I got kicked out of college, right? I felt like I'm moving back home with my parents, y'all. I feel like nobody want to deal with me. Like, yo, I felt unlovable, right? Because even Like, so for that while, I'm not dating nobody, none of that, right? Because I really felt unlovable. I was broke. I was broken. Like, I was like, yo, I was, look at me, man. I was doing more than most college kids, running my own business, right? Mobile personal training. I'm making $50 an hour before I even graduated. I'm like, yo, I lost all that. I'm like, I'm reverting back. I was depressed. So I was going through some time, but then moving back home and moving back with the habits of coping, I wasn't seeing it as depressed or going through it. I was seeing it as a problem, as a vacabo, to put it in that layman term, right? I'm smoking weed at that time, not necessarily because I'm a bad person, but because it was the one thing that helped me escape. But I was staying up late partying because I was going through my process. But instead of people seeing you in your process, they never see you. They just see your flaws. And, that's how it is. I don't necessarily blame them, but it was not emotionally healthy for me. And then I come home to only be ostracized like a step kid without a key to my own home. Like, that hurt. And, bro, the stories even go on. And I realized all my life I felt like a step kid. And I felt like my dad didn't stand up for me. So I didn't stand up for myself because the very masculine energy that was supposed to give that was not giving that. And I didn't learn how to do that. I had to learn how to do that. And I'm kind of telling everybody here, you got to learn how to do that. Men, women, and don't do that to the women. Don't do that to your boys. You create weak men when you don't let them stand up and speak for themselves, right? Don't do that to your boys, right? I'm telling you, don't do that to your boys, because what I'm saying is you're gonna affect